In 2008, one of the biggest cyber crises in history began silently. No alarm bells went off, no news story made headlines, but something was wrong. At first, the problems were small. People noticed their computers slowing down for no reason. Office systems were freezing. Corporate networks were starting to crash. Banks were receiving strange errors they couldn't explain. IT teams assumed these were ordinary technical issues, but they weren't. Because these problems were happening all over the world at the same time. And soon, cybersecurity experts realized they all pointed to a single source, its name, Conficker. This virus was different from the others. It didn't just damage a system, it entered a machine, copied itself, spread across networks, and took control of every device it infected. But that wasn't the real danger. The real danger was that these computers were no longer alone. They were connecting to each other. Millions of computers, one single network, one single point of control, a botnet. At that moment, experts understood the situation. This wasn't just a virus, it was preparation. Because a system like this has only one purpose: to wait, and at the right moment, activate everything at once. Think about it. Millions of computers launching an attack at the same time. Banks, government institutions, internet infrastructure. This wouldn't just be an attack. It would be a digital collapse. And the most terrifying part was this: no one knew who was controlling it. Conficker kept spreading. Security software couldn't stop it. Every day, a new version appeared. Closed vulnerabilities reopened. It was like a living organism that kept adapting. Some experts believed it was created by a government. Others blamed organized crime groups. But the truth was, no one was sure. And that uncertainty made the threat even more terrifying. As the months passed, the numbers grew. Hundreds of thousands, then millions. Eventually, estimates showed that more than 10 million computers were infected. At this point, only one question remained: when? Because everyone knew. One day, this system would be activated, and when that day came, no one would be able to stop it. But right at that moment, someone unexpected entered the story. A young cybersecurity researcher. Back then, she wasn't very well known. But what she did would change everything in an instant. He began analyzing the behavior of the virus. He studied the code. He tried to understand how it spread and how it communicated. And then, he noticed something strange. Conficker was constantly trying to connect to certain internet addresses, but most of those addresses didn't even exist. At first glance, it looked like a simple coding error, but it wasn't. This was the control mechanism of the virus. The malware was receiving commands through these domains, and if one of those addresses became active, the virus would connect to it. At that moment, a critical idea emerged. What if I register one of those domains? It was a huge risk, because if he was wrong, nothing would happen. But if he was right, millions of infected machines would start connecting to him, and there was no time to waste. He acted fast. He purchased one of the domains the virus was trying to reach, and he activated it. Then he went into standby mode, and within minutes, something incredible happened. Infected computers from all around the world started connecting to that domain, Traffic exploded, servers were overwhelmed, and most importantly, the spread of the virus slowed down. It was as if a switch had been flipped. This was a kill switch, and the person who found it was Marcus Hutchins. In an instant, an invisible war had ended. Millions of computers were saved, and the world had narrowly escaped a massive disaster without even realizing it. The story could have ended here, as a classic hero story, but it didn't, because real life is always more complicated. Years passed, and in 2017, Marcus Hutchins traveled to the United States. A routine trip, but something unexpected happened at the airport. The FBI arrested him. The charges were serious. A piece of malware he had developed in the past had been used to steal people's banking information. Suddenly, the man known as the savior of the internet was being judged as a criminal, and this completely changed the direction of the story. Now, the question was, is a person defined by their past or by the choices they make? During the trial, more details came to light. Hutchins had written that malware when he was younger, but then he stopped. He changed direction. He moved into cybersecurity and started stopping the attacks created by others. So the same person had lived two different lives. In one, someone who harmed systems. In the other, someone who protected them. And the most critical point was this: if he hadn't stopped Conficker that day, the consequences would have been unimaginable. In the end, the court made its decision. Yes, he had committed a crime, but at the same time, he had protected millions of people. Because of that, he did not receive a heavy sentence. He was released and continued his life, this time fully on the other side. Today, Conficker is still considered one of the biggest cyber threats in history. But the real power of this story isn't the virus, it's the human behind it. Because sometimes the person who saves the world is the same person who once put it in danger. And sometimes what makes the biggest difference isn't who you were, it's the side you choose. That day, an unknown hacker bought a single domain, but what he really did wasn't just stopping an attack, he prevented a disaster. And maybe more importantly, he rewrote his own story.